Hello, and welcome to another edition of Believers Fellowship Bible Time. I'm thankful that you're able to join in with us today and to look at God's Word. And I just want to let you know that you may have been following the governor's report on opening up Texas, and you may have been listening to the city council and the county commissioners' meetings regarding the application of reopening Texas here in San Antonio and Bexar County. And I just want to assure you that we're following all that information as close as we can. And we will be communicating with you probably today as to what our plans as a church are going forward within the guidelines that have been laid out by our leaders. And we're thankful for the opportunities that we have. And actually, because of these unusual times in which we're living, that's what led us to creating Bible Time. And we're enjoying these times together in God's Word. And so we're thankful for this opportunity, and we hope to keep it going even after we get out of these unusual times, whenever that might be. But anyways, we're here today. We're in the book of Deuteronomy, and today we're looking at chapters 2 and 3. Which is more of the recounting of the history of the travels of Israel in the wilderness, and then as they got closer and the more recent times preparing going into the land. You'll remember last time we looked at the fact, or we mentioned the fact that chapters 1 through 4 talks about the past. This is part 1 of the book of Deuteronomy. It talks about the past of what God did in bringing them to this place where they are about to enter the land. And in chapter 8, verse 2 of Deuteronomy, it says, "You shall remember the whole way the Lord has led you." Remember. God places a value on us remembering things, remembering who He is, remembering what He has done. And by remembering, it's more than just, I remember those facts. I've got that history down. It means to call these things to mind because they have a practical bearing on your life today. It means to ponder these things and to think deeply and significantly and carefully about all that God has done and how that relates to you today as you walk with the Lord. And you need to think these things through, think them through carefully. And that's what we're trying to do in these Bible times, to think some of these things through and to help you develop an approach to reading the Bible that will help you to get the most out of it that you can. And I mean, you can notice right off the bat here in chapter 2, verse 7, as it talks about the 40 years that the Lord was with them in the wilderness. And it says there, "You have lacked nothing." That's an amazing statement. You've been out here in this wilderness for 40 years. You've taken laps around this one mountain, Mount Seir, and that the Lord has been with you and you have lacked nothing. I would encourage you sometime, take a bus trip out to that wilderness, take a lap around Mount Seir, get out of the bus. And you won't want to be there for 40 minutes, let alone 40 years. But yet the Lord was faithful to provide for them, to protect them, and they did not lack for anything during that time. That's something to remember. That's something to call to mind, that the Lord, even though these people were rebellious, disobedient, they're in the wilderness because of their disobedience, yet the Lord was with them and they didn't lack for anything. That's something to ponder. And as they're moving along, as they've taken their last lap around the mountain and they're heading north to the point where they're going to enter the promised land, you'll notice that God said, no, we're not going to do any warring with the Edomites. The Edomites are relatives of the Israelites. They're descendants from Esau. Remember, Jacob and Esau were twin brothers. The Edomites are the descendants of Esau. Nor are they going to, he says, don't do any war with the Moabites and the Ammonites, which are descendants of the sons of Lot. So there's a connection there. There's not going to be any warfare there. But you'll notice that when he talks about these people, the Edomites, the Moabites, Ammonites, he points out that they dispossessed great people in the process of claiming the land that the Lord gave them. they had to drive out some people, some great people in doing that. In fact, look at chapter 2, verse 10. It says, the Amim formerly lived there, a people great and many and as tall as the Anakim. So that's what he's saying that they did. These are the people that they had to drive out, these great and terrible people. And again, in verse 20, as he's talking about the people of Ammon, then the place that they went, it was also counted as the land of the Rephaim. Rephaim formerly lived there, but the Ammonites called them the Zamzumim, a people great and many, tall as the Anakim. But the Lord destroyed them before the Ammonites, and they dispossessed them and settled in their place. And so what he's doing is saying, hey, remember these things. Remember, you're walking through the land here of these people, the Edomites, the Moabites, Ammonites. These are people that are related to you, Israelites, and these are people that I gave land to, and they had to dispossess great people to take possession of this land. And remember that the spies that had gone in to the land of Canaan, the Israelites had sent the spies in, and the 10 of them gave a bad report, and they said, yeah, there's big, mean people there. We need to fear the people. Well, so the Lord is saying, hey, look at what I've done here in giving these people, which aren't even my people like you people, the Israelites are. Look what I did for these people in giving them their land. That's something for them to remember. Remember what the Lord has done. Then they get to the land of the Amorites. No relation there. And there's kings Sihon and Og. And these were great kings, and they had great cities and great territory and great armies. And the Lord gave the Israelites the victory over them. In fact, in verse 33 here of chapter 2, it says, and the Lord our God gave him over to us. Sihon, that's great King Sihon, was given over to us. And then in chapter 3, verse 13, says, then we turned and went up by the way to Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us, he and all the people, to battle at Edrei. But the Lord said to me, do not fear him, for I have given him and all his people and his land into your hand, and you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who lived at Heshbon. So the Lord our God gave into our hand Og also, the king of Bashan. And this guy was an impressive dude, because if you look down at verse 11, it talks about his bed was a bed of iron. 9 cubits was its length. So that's like that's like 13 and a half feet. And 4 cubits was its width. That's 6 feet wide. And so that's a pretty impressive bed. But the word bed there most likely refers to his coffin. This was a great king, great people. And the Lord gave them victory over these people. And again, this is going back to the fact that those spies that went in said, we can't go in there, because not only are there great people, but they got great cities, walled cities. Well, look again here at chapter 2, verse 36, where it says, there was, the Lord gave them all into our hands. There was not a city too high for us. So he's attacking the things that the spies said, hey, there's scary people there. Hey, I've had other people, the Edomites, Moabites, Ammonites, they've dispossessed great people. And hey, they got high cities, well fortified, big walled cities. Well, hey, you're taking them here from the Amorites. And so God is telling them to remember these things that he has done for them in preparation for them to go into the land. Kind of the summary is in chapter 3, verses 21 and 22, and it says, I commanded Joshua at that time, your eyes have seen all that the Lord your God has done to these 2 kings. So will the Lord do to all the kingdoms into which you are crossing. You shall not fear them, for it is the Lord your God who fights for you. So All of this is happening to not only tear down the arguments of the bad report, but to prepare the people to go into the land. So there's a couple of key things just to draw from this. Remember the goodness of the Lord. Remember the goodness and the power of the Lord. Remember what he's done for Israel. Remember what he's done for the church. And it's a good idea to read church history and to read biographies and to see what the Lord has done and how he has shown himself good and faithful and powerful to his people. And that would be an encouragement for us in the issues that we face in every day. And also you need to keep in mind the big picture as you read the details, because you could just read these details and go, yeah. But there's a big picture. The Lord is saying certain things for certain reasons. He's not saying everything. He's just saying certain things for certain reasons. He's addressing certain issues. Keep that in mind. What he's doing with is he's dealing with the fears that were stirred up by the spies, and he's developing a pattern of confidence for them to go forward in the Lord. So, 2 chapters of history or great encouragement to follow the Lord and to trust him. It's exciting to study God's word, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow where we're going to do more Bible time.